Hello guys, Cartoon Rental Boy 64 is here. Now, usually I would do a SpongeBob episode review or something like that, but today we're going to be talking about a specific topic. And today we're going to be talking about a specific franchise that people seem to not forgotten a little bit about over time because it hasn't had a new game in a while. Well, okay, actually I shouldn't say forgotten about, considering this franchise has more games than Rayman will ever have, honestly, which is kind of sad. Since Rayman is one of my favorite video game characters of all time and franchises of all time. But this franchise is much different from that. Though this franchise came out in 1996, the same year as Mario 64 and Sonic 3D Blast. And this franchise is known for having some ups and downs for over the years. At least it's not as it's not at least major ups and downs like Sonic did. I'm looking at you, Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric, piece of crap game. Sorry if I mentioned Sonic Boom. I really hate that game. My least favorite Sonic game of all time. Second worst would probably be for Sonic Forces. Honestly, that game also sucks. But that's today's summer. Okay, we're not gonna be talking about Sonic today. We're gonna have to talk about this friend. We're gonna talk about the one, the only, the myth, the legendary Crash Bandicoot series. Crash Bandicoot is my favorite video game character and franchise of all time. I think it's better than Mario, Sonic, Zelda, Kirby, Banjo Kazooie especially, and a lot of others, and Pac-Man of course too. And I'll explain in this video about the the writing, the story, the comedy, and then talk about the mainline games and talk about the spin-offs in this video. So get ready for a wild ride in this video. So let's start off with this. Let's talk about my Wildlife Crash Bandicoot first and talk about those first before talking about each of the mainline games, spin-off games, crossover game, and many others. Or I can split this into halves video. So, why do I love Crash Bandicoot and think it's the best video game franchise of all time? Let's start off with let's start off with about let's just start off with okay. Oh yeah, I also don't have much Crash Bandicoot games in my collection yet. I'm gonna buy all of them at some point. Maybe by September I'll play all of them through a marathon to see which is the best not Monopoly Crash Bandicoot game and talk about which is the best one, or I could do a whole marathon of all Crash Bandicoot games throughout 1 week or 2 weeks and see if I could beat the whole game in 100% or something like that, or maybe sort of like that, I guess. I don't know. I mean, if I'm being honest with you guys, that I do really like Crash Bandicoot's franchise, honestly, and I really respect it a lot. Honestly, it was my first video game franchise I ever experienced in my childhood. So, this should be fun. So let's start off with the first thing I like about Crash Bandicoot a lot, more than Mario and Sonic and even other franchises that had games. The storytelling and writing. The writing and storytelling is very important for a franchise, considering that you do need to have a good story in writing to justify the game's length and stuff. And I think that mostly that the writing and stories are very consistent throughout each game of the franchise, of the Crash Bandicoot franchise especially. Sure, there is some retcons that were addressed in some future games, like Crash 4. It's about time retcon every post Naughty Dog game, including Wrath for Cortex, of course, which it makes sense considering Wrath for Cortex doesn't explain why Cortex and the villains are back though, even though they were defeated in Crash 3. But I guess I'll say that they didn't have much time to explain what happened after Crash 3, honestly, if I'm being honest with you. But still. And also I'll do a whole video about the best way to play each Crash game, honestly, too, because I might do that too, to see which are the best ones to play them on. So yeah, let's get started. So let's okay. So we talked about the writing and storytelling. So yeah, I think the stories and writing is very consistent throughout the whole series, except for Raffle Cortex and Crash It's About Time, of course, and Crash of the Titans a little bit too. But I'll give that one a pass, considering that one kind of is weird. But I get why they wanted to retcon Crash One, honestly. But it's supposed to take place after Twinsanity, though, if I'm being honest with you. But still, and I understand, and I do understand retconning the other post Naughty Dog games, considering that Crash Raffle Cortex didn't explain how the Cortex. Okay, did I already explain this already? I think I did. So sorry about that. But still know what I mean, of course. So yeah, honestly, I think and let's move on to the next thing I like about Crash Bandicoot series. Next up is the humor in characters. So, if you guys don't know, Crash Bandicoot has always been a cartoony series overall in the gaming history of his franchise. Considering, I think the older games, and even I think the most cartoony Crash game of them all is Crash Insanity with its cartoony humor, and to extend Crash of the Titans too. Well, I do think the first four games, yes, I'm including Raffle Cortex in this, did have some funny moments. Twinsanity blows it out of the water and made it really funny. There's a lot of line delivery that's funny, so many jokes that I found funny. I found most of the humor in Twinsanity funny. While Crash of the Titans, on the other hand, I'm not that impressed by it. While I do like the humor in the game, it does have some downsides to the humor, honestly. It feels like childlike humor, honestly, if I'm being honest with you. Which, like I said, I played Crash of the Titans when I was younger, and I own the Wii version of the game, which is the best version of Crash of the Titans, honestly. But still, I think that mostly the humor in Crash of the Titans is pretty alright, but not the best type humor in Crash game in general, honestly. So yeah, it's not the best humor in the Crash game series. Sorry to people who actually those games. Honestly, I just don't think they're the best. Well, no, okay, okay. Actually, no. Crush the Titans of me, not Twinsanity. I love Twinsanity. So yeah, comedy wise, this series is hilarious when it comes to funny moments in each game. Even in some of the worst Crash games, they still have funny moments in there and some funny gags, honestly, which is something I can't say the same for Sonic, honestly, in the modern not sequence modern games, which are mostly childlike humor. Sorry to Sonic fans who actually like Sonic. I feel like that some of the modern games kind of are not that great, but you still know what I mean, of course. And characterization wise, the Crash Bandicoot series is very consistent, and I would say I think the roster is better than Mario and Sonic, and even some other young video game characters as well. Because clearly, this franchise wanted to have so many characters be in their own role, and I think that making like a good roster of characters is really what makes this series really special to me. And I think that really this series has the best stretch of rosters or set of characters I ever seen from a video game series. I mean, Crash and Coco are the highlights of the franchise in general. They are just really good characters, and so is Aku Aku too, or Uka Uka. Sorry, or is it Uka Uka or Aku Aku? I think it's Aku Aku. Sorry if I forgot the names. And Cortex is also really funny in each game. Just saying. Next up is the gameplay. So, what does the Crash series have compared to Mario and Sonic that they don't have? They have consistent gameplay and enemy design. As like I said before, Crash Bandicoot is like I said before, I do think that the Crash series really does do a good job at elevating over these. Um, okay, I don't even know. Okay, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, so I was talking about the gameplay. Sorry. So yeah, the gameplay is like I said, it's very different depending on each entry. Crash 1 is very simple and straight and very semi-linear. Crash 2 is the same deal, but except with more gimmicky levels. Or should I say more gimmicks, honestly. Such as doing a jet, such as riding on a jet board, or going on or using a jetpack in the space levels. And then in Crash 3, it's mostly a combine of a lot of different gameplay styles. We have the standard semi-linear platforming, we have riding levels, surfing levels, airplane shooting levels. In it, we also have driving levels too. And then in Rafa Cortex, it's basically, and also underwater levels in Crash 3, of course. And then we have in Crash Rafa Cortex, we have the same deal as Warped, but done a little bit worse. Now keep in mind, I don't think Rafa Cortex is that bad of a game. I just think that I just really think that some of the gimmicks were not needed in the game in general. And that the center platforming levels are the best part of the whole game. And so is the boss battles too. So yeah. Yeah, I really don't I really don't yeah, I don't really think that yeah, I don't really think that yeah, overall I don't think that the crap that well, sorry, I'm trying to say this. I'm trying not to say something else. I'm trying to say like that. I'm trying to say like that. Compared to Mario and Sonic, Crash has consistent gameplay over the whole series. I mean, also, oh, I forgot to mention the other titles. Crash to Insanity, on the other hand, decides to be more open ended, despite the game having some. It feels like a prototype. It feels more like a before it feels like more like Bowser's Fury open worldness than anything. Honestly, more semi open world, where it's more open ended than any other Crash game in the series. And then Crash of the Titans, on the other hand, oh, yeah, I forgot to mention the GBA games. But I'm going to talk about Crash of the Titans first before going to GBA games. The two GBA games, specifically. So, Crash of the Titans is more of a wildly linear beat 'em up platformer. It has platforming, but beat 'em up sections too. And I think that this is a nice change of pace from the traditional platforming that we had from the first four games of the franchise. Or at least six of them, if you're counting the GBA games, the two GBA games, the Huge Adventure and Entrance, which are 2D side scroller platformers that are 2D, and I think Entrance is way better than Huge Adventure in my opinion, honestly. But I guess that not everyone is going to agree with that opinion though, because they're both really good games overall. But I think Entrance is one of the better Crash games of all time, of course. But still. And then we have Mind Over Mutant, which I'm gonna say it. Mind Over Mutant is just Crash of the Titans, but worse in every single way. It has finicky controls, worser boss battles, worser gameplay. It basically is Crash of the Titans, but except a sequel and it's just worse than the original game. Honestly, I don't know how they did it, but they managed to make this game look worse, make it look worse than Crash of the Titans does. And this is a console game anyway, not a handheld game. And honestly, this game, Minor Mutant, is just the worst console game of the franchise. Honestly, worse than Tag Team Racing and worse than freaking Crash Bash or Crash Team Rumble or anything other console games of this franchise. Honestly, as clearly this one had not much. Really, this one felt rushed and felt like it was too short. Honestly, it feels things just happen and that's it. Honestly, even though it's pseudo open world with beat 'em up sections, elements, I meant, it still fails to be a more open ended game. Honestly, compared to Twinsanity did, which Twinsanity did a better job at open worldness and had to have more things to do. And then that's mostly the gameplay about all the games. Oh yeah, we also have racing game. We also have three racing games. We have the original CTR. You have Nitro Kart and Tag Team Racing. The first two are basically racing games, while Tag Team Racing is a platforming slash racing game and mini game a little bit too. So it's made of it's every like its own genre game, honestly, action adventure game. And then we also have the party games, Crash Bash and Crash Boom Bang, which are party games. And then we also have the multiplayer battle arena game, Crash Team Rumble, and then we have the handheld games based on console games, that being the 2D side-scrolling platformer games. Well, Crash of the Titans DS is 3D though, but still. But this is okay. So this I talked about most of the things of the series. So what else is there to talk about? Let's talk about. How about this? I will talk about each mainline game and then talk about the spin-off games. Also, we also have one crossover game, Crash Purple, but that's about it. So let's get started. Let's start off with a lot of things about this franchise. Honestly, when it comes to like, let's talk about freaking. Let's talk about. Let's see. I don't know. Let's talk about the mainline games first, considering they are the more important ones out of the franchise. And I will say that that Crash managed to. I think that Crash One is a pretty good game, but probably the weakest out of the trilogy, considering it's more harder than the actual. It's more harder than the other two games. And I'm so glad the remake decided to improve the game a lot better. Honestly, well, the original remake has a little bit of problems, but I still enjoy the remake a lot more than the original. Same goes to the actually other two, Crash 2 and Crash 3. I prefer Insane Trilogy because it's more graphically effective and it looks more cleaner, honestly, and it looks more cleaner, more visually good, and it looks more just awesome, honestly. And I will say also extra points for this. It actually has better controls than the PS1 did. The PS1 versions of the games. So that's double points for that. Anyway, let's move on. So what was I talking about? Okay, I remember. Another thing I like about, I think another thing about, I think that, I think that the first three Crash games on Insane Trilogy are much better than the original games. PS1 games specifically. Better controls, better physics, better control. Well, okay, I already said that already. I think I already supplied my points about Insane Trilogy, but you still know what I mean. I just prefer Insane Trilogy over the original games any day of the week. And the fun doesn't stop there. No. Because I actually have another widely considered better game than the original PS1 game. So here's Insane Trilogy, right here. And here is the other game, Crash Team Racing Nitro Feud. The only thing we're missing is Crash Bash, which I don't really know why would anybody want to remake that game, honestly. It's mostly a mediocre party game, honestly, which I do understand why they didn't want to remake that game at all and want to do Crash 4 instead. But still, I mean, I wish Crash Team Rumble was more of a party game than a battle arena game, but oh well, I guess. So yeah. Another thing about the about okay, so we talked about the mainline games. Well, at least no, we didn't talk about the mainline games. We talked about storytelling, writing, humor, and characterization, and also the gameplay. And we did talk about a few of the mainline games, but we still have more to go. We also have Crash Wrath Cortex, which again, like I said before, it's mostly an alright game, but not the best Crash game of all time, honestly. While I do have some good memories with this game. I do think the game is alright alright execution wise, because it's clearly a downgrade compared to the first three games, honestly. And even though I do think it's an alright game. It's alright at best, but even though it's an alright game, I wouldn't recommend it as much as the first three games overall. As for Twinsanity, on the other hand, oh boy, I have a lot of things to say about Twinsanity, especially. The gameplay is great, the humor is great, the story is great, the writing is great. Pretty much everything about this game is just amazing, honestly. And I think it's the best Crash game of all time, and probably one of my favorite video games of all time. If it wasn't for Battle for King Bottom, this would have easily been my number one favorite game of all time. As a kid, of course. But you know, Battle for King Bottom is more better than this game, but because it's more longer, but still. But Crash Twinsanity is still a great game, and I do recommend it if you're a fan of not SpongeBob, Crash Bandicoot. Sorry, I keep saying SpongeBob. I didn't mean to say SpongeBob because because furry animals and stuff like that. I guess. Oh well. And then we have the GBA games, those being Huge Adventure and Intrans, which are both good GBA games. They're fun games that you can play on GBA and DS. And I do recommend these games if you're a fan of Crash Bandicoot in general. So, there you go, I guess. Honestly, I think the other thing about why I like about I think another reason why I think another reason why I think the reason why I like Twin City is the best one is because it has the best writing, humor, and pretty much sure it's an unpolished, glitchy mess that should have been more polished and more time to baked. But honestly, I think it's still a great game in general, and I don't think any other Crash game has ever topped this one in my opinion. Honestly, just saying. Honestly, this game is just so great that I can't. Even the soundtrack is really great of this game. Twisted is the prime example of how to do a game right. Honestly, it's up there with Battlefield Bottom when it comes to quality wise. When it comes to one of my favorite games of all time, honestly, of any franchise. Because clearly this one had a lot of effort poured into it. Honestly, just saying. Because like I said, I know a lot of people will say like, what about Crash 3 or the original trilogy? I do like the original trilogy on PS1, but honestly, Insane Trilogy is much better and also better versions of the game. But for Twinsanity, on the other hand, I think it's my favorite because it has a lot of things I like about Crash Bandicoot in general, honestly, and it doesn't have any flaws in general besides the rush gameplay, besides the rush and polished glitches, and some unfit and some rush development time for this game, honestly. But the game is very flawless in my opinion, of course. Then we had okay. So sorry. Did I get a lot talk? Yeah, Insanity. We talked about the GBA. Forgot to talk. Yeah, GBA games are really good, and I do recommend them. And then we have Crash of the Titans, which is a really good game that really people should play more. Honestly, heck, I actually own Crash of the Titans in my collection right now. I have it for the Wii, right over here. Hold on, let me show you guys. I don't have the DS version yet, but I have heard I have played the DS version when I was younger too, along with the Wii version. So here it is. Here is Crash of the Titans on Wii. I might get Minor Mutant again, since I did also play this game I did play that game also too, for the Wii, but still. Because like I said before, I do like the I do like Crash of the Titans, honestly, and it's one of my favorite Crash games of all time. Honestly, it's a fun game that people should recommend. I should recommend to people because honestly, it's a fun game, and I have no complaints about this game at all. Sure, the gameplay can get a little repetitive at some of the later points of the game, but I do like the beat 'em up gameplay of this game, honestly. And I do love to see a remake of this game at some point, honestly. But considering that the Black Sheep of the Crash series, I don't think I don't think either Crash of the Titans or Minor Mutant will ever get remake. Same with Twin Sanity and Wrath of Cortex 2, or even the GBA games either. But still, okay. So we did talk about that. Then we also have Minor Mutant, which is the worst console game of the franchise, honestly. At least mainline wise, honestly. At least in my opinion, of course. Honestly, it's Crash of the Titans, but worse in every single way possible. Which, how can you make a good game and then follow that up with a bad game, honestly? Which is kind of weird. But then again, I just think that Minor Mutant is more boring and kind of derivative than anything, honestly. So sorry to people who like Minor Mutant over Crash of the Titans. I just can't get into this one as much as Crash of the Titans did for me. 'Cause like I said, I would have preferred if this game actually. I would have preferred if this game was just more, you know. I just wish the game was more like Crash of the Titans, but then again, I know that also making a sequel to I know I know it was because that game. I know it's because Minor Mutant came out in 2008 and also was the final Crash game before 12 years later, which led up to the creation of a good masterpiece, that being the also really good, at least final console game of right now, considering they have not remade this game yet, so who knows if this game will ever get remastered or remade, honestly. But, yeah. Well, let me remove this real quick. Remove this real quick. We also have this baby right here, Crash 4 It's About Time. And this is my second favorite Crash game of all time, honestly. Because it has a lot. It does retcon the post Naughty Dog Crash games, but I think this is still a great sequel to the original trilogy, honestly. And it's a better sequel than Wrath of Cortex will ever be, honestly. Since, like I said, Wrath of Cortex is just alright, but I think it's not the best Crash game of all time, of course, unlike everyone else says. Or at least, some people say, at least. Because, like I said, Wrath of Cortex is more divisive amongst the fan base than anything. Even more divisive than Twin Sanity is, honestly. Which is kind of crazy to think about. So there's that, I guess. Sorry, I gotta get a deep breath. And I've been talking a lot in this video already. So, yeah. Honestly, Crash 4 is a really good game too, actually. Sure, unfortunately, I can't play on my PS5 anymore because even though I bought the PS4 version, I should have bought the PS5 version off the PlayStation Store. But guess what? My PS5 is not working right now, and I doubt it will ever work. nowadays, considering that you need a lot of things to set it up and stuff, and it won't send me back into my account. So that's just great. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to feel about that. Anyway, let's move on. So yeah, Crash 4 is a great game, and I do recommend it if you ever play a Crash game. Honestly, better sequel than Wrath of Cortex will ever be. So thank you guys. So thank you. Actually, that's not the end of the video yet. I still have about 15 minutes to go. I guess I don't know. I don't know how long this video will go, but still. So yeah, that's about for the mainline games. Now let's move on to spin-offs. Spin-offs. Let's start with the racing games first, which I actually own one of them for right now, considering I don't own the other ones yet, but I'm planning on getting that, if I'm being honest with you. I have this baby right here, Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled for Switch. I may have bought the worst version of the game, at least compared to the PS4 and Xbox One version. But it's still a great. I still think the Switch version is still a great version to play, honestly. If I'm being honest with you, just like Insane Trilogy did. But still. I think another reason why. I think a reason why I like. Here's another reason why. Yeah. So Nitro Kart is really good. No, not Nitro Kart. Nitro Fuel is really good, and I think it's a really good Crash game to start the racing series on. Well, it's a remix, so it's better than the original overall. If I'm being honest with you, it's more visually good. I like the gameplay better, and I just think the game is just more visually good. So yeah, um, overall, I think that the first Crash game for racing, tag team racing, Crash Team Racing on PS1 is a great game, and so is the remake too. It's really good. I like it a lot. But then we get into the other two racing games, which, oh boy, I don't know how to feel about them. So let's start off with my Nitro Kart first for console, not the GBA version, unfortunately, which we'll talk about that when we get to the handheld games. And unfortunately, I'm gonna say it, Nitro Kart is not as good as the original. Sure, I still like it a lot, but personally, I think that this game is a little bit weaker than the original. It's not because it's weaker. It's not because it's on higher hardware. It's because I don't enjoy the tracks as much as the original. Funny enough, Nitro Kart Nitro Fuel decided to remake a lot of stages from the original Nitro Kart itself too. So that's and characters too. So that's kind of interesting that it references that game too. I was expecting a whole remake based on the original game, but I guess not from Nitro Kart or Tag Team Racing, to be honest. But Nitro Kart is still a great game for PS2, Xbox, and GameCube. But it's still not. It's just not the best Crash racing game out there. And then we have the worst one of the bunch, that being Tag Team Racing, which is a all over the place type of game. Sure, it has mini games, platforming, and racing, and that's about it. In a hub area. I like to call this more action adventure racing game, honestly. Considering this is more of a mix of ideas that were thrown together by the developers of Radical Entertainment. And honestly, as a new installment of the racing games in the last installment overall, this one sucks, man. It's not as great as the first two, and I think it just feels like the racing is just not that great anyway. The only parts I like about Tag Team Racing overall is the mini games, honestly. Those are really fun. But the platforming is very stiff and very tight. And it's not as great as it's not as good as the platforming Twinsanity was. Right. So yeah, I'm not really impressed. So I'm not really impressed by Tag Team Racing, honestly. But oh boy, it's better than the party games. So let's get into those, shall we? Crash Bash is just mediocre for a PS1 game. It's probably the weakest PS1 game that I ever played. Well, okay, that's debatable considering there's worse PS1 games than this one, but it's mostly mediocre at best. It's painfully average, and it's not that great of a party game, honestly. The Mario Party series works because it has a lot of because you have a roster of characters, a lot of roster of characters. However, this one decides to be more, well, do I dare say it? It's more just like not that great, honestly, as the original. Well, actually, no. It's not as good as the Mario Party games, honestly, which, like I said, it's better than Mario Party 10 and 9 and some of the 3DS games, but still, Crash Bash is just a mediocre party game that really does exist for the sake of it. And it's just painfully average too, anyway. So I'm not really impressed by Crash Bash, honestly. It's not a 4 out of 10. It's probably more of a 5 out of 10 than anything. A little bit worse than Rafa Cortex, but it's still it is an alright game in general. Just painfully average though, a painfully average one. So yeah. And then we have the horrors of the next game being Crash Boom Bang, which is the worst DS party game of all time. Yeah, worse than Eminem Party Game on DS, which is already infamous for reasons whatsoever. Crash Boom Bang expects nothing from the player, and it's mostly frustrating as all get out. I don't think anybody will enjoy playing this game, honestly, if I'm being honest with you. Because clearly this game is confusing and very just like frustrating in general. I don't think anybody will like this game a lot, considering this game is just kind of just not very good in my opinion. Because really, this game is just not good. I really don't like Crash Boom Bang, and I think it's one of the worst Crash games of all time. I don't see anybody who likes this game, honestly. I really can't. Most people hate this game, and I can see why. Because it's just frustrating, derivative, and annoying to play through. It's not the worst party game I ever played, considering this Mario Party 10 exists, but still. This game clearly does not need to exist in general. They could have just made more. They could have just made a sequel to Crash Bash instead, but they decided to make a DS game instead. But that's about it. I'm moving on. And then we have the final section of this video where we talk about the handheld games. The handheld games based on console releases or handheld ports of console games. And we only have about 4 of them, honestly, as of right now. Those being Crash Nitro Kart on GBA. We have Crash of the Titans on GBA and DS. And then we have Minor Mutant on DS. And we also have the spin-off game Crash Purple. So I have about 5 more games to go, I guess. Or at least 5 more games, at least, to talk about in this video. And then we'll get into my overall thoughts about the series. So, let's start off with Crash Nitro Kart on GBA. Honestly, this game is really fun, honestly. A really fun GBA racing game, honestly. It's no surprise this was made by Vicarious Visions, considering this actually has a lot of elements to the console game, but managed to be more better than the console game, honestly, but being honest with you. It feels more refined and more interesting than a console game was. And it feels more. I feel like I feel more happier playing this GBA port compared to the console game, honestly. Because I just like the GBA version over the console game, honestly. If I'm being honest with you. But that's just me. That's just my opinion, though. Of course, I know a lot of people are gonna probably get angry in the comment section for that, but still. But that's not. And I'll say this actually a hot take for sure. I actually prefer Nitro Kart on GBA to the GBA game for Mario Kart. That's just how much I love Mario. Not Mario. Crash Bandicoot more than Mario, honestly, if I'm being honest with you. Okay, so let's move on. So we also have Crash of the Titans on GBA and DS. So let's start with the GBA version first. The GBA version is one of the worst Crash games of all time too, because clearly it's a boring beat 'em up game that's a 2D side scroller, but it looks worse than the other GBA games, and it clearly does not have. It doesn't feel like it feels nothing like a Crash game. Honestly, it's worse than the console game and DS game and combined. Honestly, it combines all the problems with it combines most of the problems I have with Crash of the Titans and combine them into one GBA port that really sucks hard. And as a GBA game, it sucks. It really sucks. It's one of the worst Crash games I ever played, honestly, on in my personal opinion, honestly. And I don't see anybody playing this game at all, if I'm being honest with you. So yeah, overall, Crash of the Titans on GBA is a bad game. It's really bad. I don't recommend playing this game. However, I can't say the same for Crash of the Titans on DS, which is actually a very superior game and actually one of my favorite Crash games of all time. And I actually prefer it over the console game too. Actually, let's get started with the DS. Let's look at the DS version. The DS version is a 3D semi-linear platformer with beat 'em up elements. It basically takes the direction of the first three Crash games and Wrath of Cortex, and It's About Time, and basically has the beat 'em up elements of the console game. And honestly, this worked out pretty well. It has different gameplay styles, different levels, different bosses. This feels like it feels more a classic Crash game than the other versions of Crash of the Titans, honestly, which is actually a really good sign. And this could have been saved, and the next game could have been saved if they did the same thing with Crash of the Titans, but unfortunately, that's unfortunately not the case with the next game. Might Over Mutant on DS. This is the worst Crash game of all time, honestly. I dare say this might be worse than even Crash of the Titans, this might be worse than Might Over Mutant on console. At least, okay, I'll give this to Might Over Mutant on console. Despite being a very boring game, I prefer a boring game over a completely frustrating game that is really not good to play through. Because, man, Might Over Mutant on DS is more annoying and more frustrating than anything, honestly. It's very straightforward, it's very boring, very derivative, very tedious. And it's just clearly, it's worse than Crash of the Titans on GBA, honestly. Because at least with Crash of the Titans on GBA, even though I didn't like the sprite road of the game, the power-ups are really good in that game. But with DS, Might Over Mutant on DS, oh man, there's no positives in the game, honestly. Everything about this game, I think Caddy explained it already in his Crash portable handheld game video of why Might Over Mutant DS is the worst version of the Titan and Mutants formula that you can play, honestly. Because he's actually right about that, honestly. Okay. So yeah, Might Over Mutant on DS is the worst Crash game, and I think it's a 0 out of 10, honestly. One of the worst games I ever played, honestly. Or at least a 1 out of 10 at least. But I will say it's better than Sonic Boom or Rise of Lyric, which is actually a fundamentally broken game. And at least it's not. And at least the series. Crash Bandicoot at least didn't have games that feel too similar to each other, like the new Super Mario Bros. Games, actually. Which is kind of cool. And at least it also doesn't try to do games that are way too different from the other games, like Sonic does sometimes. So that's kind of cool. Though I do wish that this series had more attention. I wish this series got attention like Mario and Sonic does nowadays. But I guess because since this series came out later than those two, but still, I think Crash Bandicoot is still a good place. And even if there's not a new game that's coming out soon, I still will appreciate the series for bringing a lot of childhood memories for me, honestly. Because this is my favorite video game franchise of all time, honestly. So yeah. Oh, we have one more game to be honest, which is the last one I'll talk on this video, and I'll do a whole video about the best versions to play on each game, honestly. So yeah, um, so yeah, Crash Purple is one of the worst Crash games of all time too. I don't know how to explain this game honestly. It's better than Crash Boom Bang, I'll say that for sure, but it's still not a great game in general, honestly. It's just painfully bad. It's so bad it's a little bit funny, honestly. Some of the mini games are not very good. The story is very not good either. And I just overall don't enjoy this game much, honestly. It's not the worst game I ever played or anything like that, but it's simply a game I just cannot get anybody. I just can't get. I just don't think anybody would like this game a lot. Honestly, I don't think anybody will like this game. Honestly, all people wanted was a good crossover between Crash and Spyro, but this game clearly sucks. Honestly, to be like one. Honestly, hopefully one day, Microsoft will bring back the Crash series and do a lot of different games. Honestly, for each year, but I doubt that. Considering they might abandon the series just like they did with Banjo Kazooie. Hopefully that will not be the case, but still. So yeah. Overall, I do think that Crash Purple is one of the worst Crash games of all time, and I do not recommend this game if you're a fan of Crash Bandicoot or Spyro the Dragon. So yeah, that's about it when it comes to Crash Bandicoot. What's my overall thoughts? So to explain everything about Crash Bandicoot. Overall, Crash Bandicoot is a series that clearly means a lot to me, and I don't think anything will ever top the series in my opinion. Honestly, I think the series is great. I think the gameplay is great. I think the story is great. I think the gameplay is right. Everything about Crash Bandicoot is really great about this game. And honestly, I don't think any other Crash game will ever improve this one on it. Sorry, any other franchise will ever top Crash Bandicoot in my opinion. It's fun, creative, more cartoony, and I love it a lot. Honestly, I don't think anything will ever top Crash Bandicoot in my opinion. Honestly, I just think that this series will be in my heart, and I will always appreciate the series for bringing me so much childhood memories. And I think that honestly, if I was given a score, I would give it a 10 out of 10. My favorite video game franchise of all time, and easily the best one I ever say. I will say right now. So overall, great series, great gameplay, and great stories and characters, and writing, and humor. So that's about it, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Kurt Georgia Boys out, and see you, and happy 30th anniversary to Crash Bandicoot, even though it's not the anniversary yet, but we're still in like April, but still. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys next time, and Kurt Georgia Boys out.